Good morning. This is October 1st, Sunday, 2023, and we are in the class for creative non-fiction, voices from the margin. So let's remind ourselves what we had done in the previous class. Let me quickly remind you. In the previous class, we started the second essay, The Night Owl by N. Fadiman. And if you recall, we talked about terms like rhetorical situation, under which we said that the actual writer of this essay is N. Fadiman. The implied writer, we can say, is a woman who sleeps during day and wakes up during night like a lark, or not like a lark, like an owl, not lark. Let me correct it. Like owl. So this implied writer, you will see, is a deviant, abnormal in a sense, woman. She is a wife. She is an avid reader. She is a writer. She is a multi-dimensional personality. So by implied writer, we mean what kind of figure does the text create as a speaker. Then we talked about speech or message last time, and we said that this essay is about sleep habits. This essay is about the sleep habits of men and women. And here we have the voice of the woman. Then we talked about the addressee. So we can say that as we read the essay, we might feel that she presents herself as an owl. So she is responding to the larks. She wakes up during night and sleeps during day. So she is responding to those people who wake up during day, and she is defending herself. Okay. Then we have the actual reader, unimplied reader. So actual reader is us, the students. Implied reader, we can say, who do you think she wants this essay to read? So I'll say the larks. And if you see the way she uses resources and authorities to support her argument, shows that her implied readers are scholarly people, right? Then we talked about ecology. I won't explain these things now. I'll move quickly because I want to start from today's point. Then we talked about occasion of writing. We talked about exigence last class. We also talked about presuppositions. We talked about discourse. We said this is epideictic discourse. Then we talked about form and genre. We said this is familiar essay. This is familiar essay that picks up a familiar topic and treats it like something scholarly. Then we talked about where is the writer speaking, right? Then motive or purpose, how is this text situated? I guess in the previous class we also talked about these kind of things. Today I want to begin with, here. So you can see this is the picture of the writer. She was born in 1953, August 7, at the New York City. And as you can see, so this essay first appeared in the magazine The American Scholar. It first appeared in the magazine The American Scholar in 1990, volume 68, number 1. And at that time, it had this name. It was not titled as The Night Owl. It was rather titled as Philonoe. And this word has a meaning we'll see in a while. Second, this essay was published again in 2007, after 8 years, May 27, in a book titled At Large and at Small Familiar Essays. This is where this essay was published in 2007. This is the book in which this essay was published. And the nature of this essay is like the essays by Charles Lamb, a very famous essayist. So what is the characteristics of Lamb's essays? This is important to understand. As you can see, the essay we are reading is known as familiar essay. What is a familiar essay? In familiar essay, the writer pays attention to personal experience. So the writer will start by talking about a personal experience, and she will discuss her personal experience in literary context and with historical comparison. So do you see, the subject matter or the topic is based on personal experience, and this personal experience is discussed in literary context and historical comparison. I'll show you how these both things happen in the essay. Okay, so please keep in mind this important thing. So what do we mean by Philonoe? This essay was first published with that name. So in Greek mythology, there were two women who were known as Philonoe or Phyllonoe, Philonoe. And daughter of King Tyndareus of Sparta and Leda. Philonoe was daughter of she was the daughter of Tyndareus of Sparta, king of Sparta and Leda. Artemis made her immortal, right? According to another story, she was the daughter of Iobates and first wife of Bellerophon. Her sister was Istheneboa, and she loved Bellerophon more than her current husband. She was promised to Bellerophon after he vanquished the Chimera, the Amazons, and more tasks. So Bellerophon was given half the kingdom as well as Philonoe's hand in marriage. She was also known under several other names. So this essay was published with the name Philonoe, and this is the meaning of the name in Greek mythology. Quickly and briefly about writer. Born August 17, 1953, New York City. She's an American essayist. She's also a reporter. She is a literary journalist. She writes essays and memoirs, and she also writes autobiographies. Okay. She is Fadiman, is the daughter of a very famous literary radio and television personality, Clifton Fadiman. Her father's name is Clifton Fadiman, and the mother's name is Anneli Jacobi Fadiman. Okay. She wrote a book, The Spirit Catches You and You Fall Down, among child her American doctors and the collision of two cultures in 1997. She has also written 2 books of essays, I can see here. The first book is Ex Libris, Confessions of a Common Reader, published 1998. And second book, At Large and at Small, Familiar Essays, published in 2007. Okay, so she also edited readings, rereadings, 17 writers revisit books they love. And she also edited the book Best American Essays 2003. She has published a memoir about her relationship with her father, the wine lover's daughter, in 2017. Now, what is the genre of this essay? So, the genre of this essay, as I said earlier, is familiar essay, right? And familiar essay has intellectual element in it, and it gives minute focus on everyday experience. For example, in this essay, Fadiman talks about sleeping habits of men and women. So this is sleeping habit is an everyday experience, but you see that she brings a lot of intellectual ideas about this topic. And in familiar essay, the writer also combines humor and knowledge. Humor and knowledge. So you will see in many paragraphs, the style of writing is humorous, and she also shows that she has done a lot of study on the topic. She shows a lot of wisdom in her writing. Okay, so in her essays, Fadiman draws us into 12 of her personal obsessions. Right, for example, in some essays, Fadiman writes about childhood enthusiasm for catching butterflies. In other essays, Fadiman writes about her crush on Charles Lamb. In another essay, Fadiman writes about her wistfulness for the days of letter writing. In another essay, Fadiman writes about the challenges and rewards of moving from the city to country. So these are some of the subjects on which Fadiman writes. So we read that many of her essays were composed under the influence of the subject. So she is under the full influence of the topic she is writing about. For example, we read that, okay, she writes about eating ice cream, for example. Look, ordinary experience. Then she writes about her passion for Haagen-Dazs chocolate, for example. Then, she also writes about staying up till dawn to write about being a night owl, the essay we are going to study. She examines the rhythms of our circadian clock, and then shares such insomnia cures as her father's nocturnal word game. She, in a humorous way, describes how her father tried to bring sleep at night. And then she also talks about Lewis Carroll's mathematical puzzles about sleeping, inducing sleep. And At Large and at Small is a brilliant and delightful collection of essays, where this essay was included when she published the book in 2007. Okay, so she brings back a long forgotten genre of familiar essay, and Charles Lamb is the famous writer in this genre, famous author in the genre of the familiar essay. Okay. So This book at large and at small was published in 2007 by Ferrari Strauss Xerox. Now let's begin from the first paragraph. Now we are getting into the essay now. So we have the title, The Night Owl. Let's first read, and we'll focus on what the author says and how do they say. My husband and I sleep in a white wooden bed whose headposts are surmounted by two birds carved and painted by an artist friend. On George's side there is a meadow lark, brown of back, yellow of breast, and with a black pectoral V, as trig and sporty as the neck of a tennis sweater. On my side there is a snowy owl, more muted in coloration, its feathers a frowsy tessellation of white and black, Stronella magna and Nectri scandica have one thing in common. They are both fast asleep, their eyes shut tight, their beaks resting peacefully. Right in the very beginning, if you see, Changra Lee's paragraph, if you remember, the first essay we read, that begins in narrative mode, right? Fadiman's paragraph begins with descriptive mode. So do you see the vivid description here? And if you pay attention, the vocabulary is quite challenging. You might need to look for word meanings. Look how I have noted down word meanings of almost everything. Not only that, while I was preparing for your class, I decided to translate the paragraph into my mother tongue Nepali to make sure that I correctly understand the essay. Now let me read from the comment. I have written comments on the paragraph. So we see that she begins by describing two figures carved on the headpost. She begins her essay by talking about the bed. And when she talks about the bed, so do you see right in the first paragraph, Fadiman introduces her subject of sleep that she is going to discuss in this essay. So what does she talk about? She talks about sleep. And how does she talk about sleep? By bringing vivid imagery. This is what and this is how. So for example, look, the vivid imagery, visual images, the head post, the two birds, the meadow lark, the breast with a black pectoral V, neck like neck of the tennis sweater, then the feathers with frowsy tessellation of white and black, the eyes, the beaks resting on the breast. Now, so we have vivid imagery, one characteristic. Another feature of this paragraph is symbolism. Symbolism. So you see, Fadiman in the very first paragraph introduces the two symbols. The symbolism of the owl, symbolism of the owl and the lark. So the owl stands for wisdom in Western culture, as you understand, and the owl also stands for hunting ability. So do you see, Fadiman is very good at hunting interesting ideas in her essay. Just as an owl hunts prey at night, Fadiman hunts for words, language, imagery. Look how beautifully she writes. She brings wonderful expressions in her writing. And if you read her essay, you will see that she also expresses a lot of wisdom. She has done a lot of study, and at the end of the essay, you have the impression that Fadiman is really a very good scholar on this topic. So, hooting call. What does the owl do? The owl gives a hooting call at night. And look, Fadiman is giving a hooting call at night by writing this essay. She doesn't sleep. She's writing, just like owl. So she gives us a call to read. She is calling us, hello, come and read my essay. Then she shows, like the owl, she shows curiosity on a subject, Her subject is sleep, very ordinary subject, but she shows extreme curiosity on this topic. Then she brings, like owl, she brings intellectual thinking. She brings more than a dozen references, doctors, psychologists, scholars, university professors to support what she's saying. So you will see that by referring to scholarly people, she makes logical appeal. Then just as owls are nocturnal, they have nocturnal nature, Fadiman also has nocturnal nature. She wakes up during day and, she sleeps during day and wakes up at night. And as I said, this paragraph has descriptive mode, whereas Chang-Riley's paragraph was in narrative mode. As we move on, we'll compare all the essays. Now the lark. Let's talk about the symbolism of the lark. Now the lark stands for joy. The lark stands for joy, hope, laughter. Larks are known for cheerfulness, right? They start with the sunrise, and her husband George, as he says, George is a lark. So George wakes up early morning and goes to bed on time. But she doesn't spend much time about lark. She talks more about the owls. Then the larks also symbolize warmth and light. In Western culture, larks are seen as harbingers of joy and hope, right? Larks are also associated with music, art, and playfulness. Here you have a picture of lark. This is the picture of lark, and this is exactly the picture that she's describing. Look, this beat trick, this sound, this like a tennis sweater. Look, this tennis sweater, and look this yellow color and the brown color. Look, she beautifully describes this bird. So this essay has a mixture of argumentative writing, narrative writing, as well as descriptive writing and other modes of writing. Okay. Here you have the owl, she describes. Now let us move to paragraph 2 and read. Alas, the lark and the owl who rest beneath their wooden familiars have a far harder time synchronizing their circadian rhythms. Now she presents the issue. Look, the lark and the owl beneath the wooden familiar. So here the lark means George, the husband, the owl means Fadiman. Or if you don't say Fadiman, let's say the wife or the rater. So what is the problem? They cannot synchronize their circadian rhythm. So the husband wakes up during day and the wife sleeps during day. The husband sleeps during night and the wife wakes up during night. See the problem, the issue. George is an early riser, a firm believer in seizing the day while it is still fresh. I am not fully alive until the sun sets. In the morning, George is quick and energetic, while I blink in the sunlight, move as if through the honey. Another remarkable thing you will see, she uses idiomatic English, idiomatic expressions. Who uses idioms? One who is a scholarly figure. So by using these idioms, she is proving that she has a very strong command on the language. She, as a writer, she is very resourceful. So do you see? And when she shows that as a writer, she is really resourceful, she makes ethical appeal. Okay, one idiom, then another idiom, to pour salt in the coffee. Then, okay, so here I have this Nepali translation I do to make sure that I understand the essay before I prepare for a class. Then let me focus on the comment in paragraph 2. I wrote these comments as part of preparing for my class. So the writer says that she is an owl and her husband is a lark, symbolism. She keeps awake throughout the night and sleeps during the day, whereas her husband likes going to bed early and rising up early in the morning. The two have opposite sleep habit. Problem. The writer uses a metaphor in this paragraph, comparing herself with the owl and her husband with the lark. This paragraph has idiomatic expressions. This is the what. Now, if you pay attention to language, the expression alas is remarkable in the very beginning of this paragraph. Alas is an old-fashioned or formal word used to express sadness and regret. And you will see throughout this, she expresses sadness about how people view her as a deviant, right? And the word alas also means there is no hope that situation will change. And you will see this feeling that perhaps the situation will not change, right? Okay. Then another remarkable thing in paragraph 2 that we should pay attention to is the idea of circadian rhythm. It is 24-hour cycle, part of body's internal clock, right? It runs in the background according to day and night, sleep-wake cycle. We call this sleep-wake cycle. We have a master clock in the brain, right? And it is this clock that tells us when to go to bed, when to rise, when we feel hungry. All the physical needs and activities are governed and determined by this clock. As I said, there is an idiom to move as if through honey. It means facing a difficult situation, right? So she says that my life is like I'm moving through the honey. To pour salt in the coffee is another idiomatic expression. That means something that ruins or spoils a good thing. Her habit of waking during night and sleeping during day probably spoils her happiness. Now let's move to paragraph 3. In the 4th century BC, Eratosthenes, historical now see, very remarkable thing. In paragraph 1 and 2, she just introduces the topic. From paragraph 3, the mode of writing changes. She brings a historical authority. This is remarkable. Now, Changrili does not do this thing. Changrili never refers a scholarly source. But Fadiman, right from paragraph 3, starts referring scholarly sources. This is a historical authority. And Eratosthenes, a scribe who accompanied Alexander the Great, and she tells a story about tamarind tree where the leaves sleep at night and wake up during day. And what she's doing, she is proving that the circadian clock works not only in human beings but also in plants. And she is telling that how we behave when we sleep, when we wake up, is all about our circadian clock. It is built in our genes. Okay, let's move. Then she also, look, one authority, the historical authority. Then she brings second, Carlos Linnaeus, taxonomist, second authority. Look, the resources she brings are all scholarly people. And her subject is simple, sleeping. But her treatment is, as we said earlier, historical. We said familiar essay, picks up an ordinary subject, ordinary experience, and treats with literary erudition, literary insight, and historical comparison. And you can see the historical comparison. See, it begins right from this time, right? Time of Alexander the Great. Okay. So you saw the second authority is scientific authority, taxonomist. And then she tells a story about flower clock, and she describes how even the like this, I guess. How different flowers bloom at different time, and how this scientist designed a flower clock where the timing of the blooming of the flowers could tell the time. For example, at 6 a.m. in the morning, the white water lily blooms, and at 6 p.m. in the evening, the primrose blooms. And then you know what time it is. What she's doing, she's proving that not only human beings, even the plant, the natural world is guided by circadian clock. And her argument is that the fact that she is a night owl is not because of a desire or carelessness, it's in the genes, it's genetic. So then, okay, we have, she described this. Now another important thing, Look, she talks about nerve cell, she talks about hypothalamus, she talks about proteins by bringing reference of this scientist at Cornell University, scholarly authority. Look, she knows when you see this vocabulary, this diction, what happens? It gives an impression that Anne Fadiman is a scholarly person, and Anne Fadiman has in-depth knowledge about the topic. The topic is ordinary, but the treatment of the topic is extraordinary. This is what familiar essay is. Then look, the mechanism for controlling sleeping and waking are embedded in nearly every human cell, as well as in every flower, petal, every insect, antenna, every bird wing. What is this? I made it bold-faced because you will see that this is the central idea of the essay. This is the central idea of the essay. Let me just adjust the camera slightly. Yes, this is the central idea of the essay, or in a sense, this is the thesis statement. As a reader, you should be able to locate the thesis statement, and you will see that throughout the essay, it is this idea that Anne Fadiman develops through the paragraphs. So I just brought the picture where you see she uses the words like suprachiasmatic nucleus. So this is the green one is this green one. This is our brain, and this is the suprachiasmatic nucleus. And she argues that it is here where there is a mechanism to control when we sleep and when we wake up. So look, she's saying that when we sleep, when we wake up is actually in our biology. So do you see? Here she said the mechanism for controlling sleeping and waking are embedded in nearly every human cell, as well as in every flower, petal, every insect, antenna, and every bird. And right in the picture, she's proving that thing. She's saying that our body is controlled by the suprachiasmatic nucleus here, the green one. Okay, in this picture, she talks about hypothalamus and says that it is from the hypothalamus that our cells are controlled, our body is controlled. So when I sleep, when I wake up, is all controlled by the body, she says, by the biology. Look, when we use technology, I'm using a smart board to make this class to teach you. And when we use technology, do you see how it helps the teacher to present his ideas in a more effective way? So here I have this Nepali translation. Each time I read an essay, to make sure I understand the essay correctly, in my habit, I translate the essay into Nepali language. So, okay, let's read the comment on third paragraph. So, the speaker becomes thoughtful here about the idea of time. She examines the concept of time throughout the history. She brings from Alexander the Great time. She shows how nature too follows a pattern of time, right? She says that humans too have a biological clock in their hypothalamus. This is what she says. This is what. Now, how does she say? She says this thing by bringing authorities. How? How does she say? She refers to the taxonomist, she refers to the scientist to prove what she's saying, right? And she also uses many terms from the medical science, like words that indicate the part of the brain. So her central claim, the mechanisms for controlling sleeping and waking are, these are claim, embedded in every human cell. Always when you read an essay, always locate the major argument. We call this the major argument, we call this the major claim, we call this the thesis statement, we call this the thesis statement. And as a reader, your job is to locate this statement and see how this idea is developed throughout the essay. Okay. So she makes references to historical figures, as you saw earlier, right? Historical figures, scientists, and university research. She is writing on a very simple topic, sleeping. But to discuss the idea of sleeping, she brings historical authority, scientists, and university research on sleep. For example, she brings Androsthenes of Thasos. Who was he? He was the admiral of Alexander the Great, right? 4th century BC. Look, she goes back to 4th century BC to bring references. And then, let's move to paragraph 4 now. Chronobiologists. So, I told you earlier, one remarkable thing about this essay is the vocabulary. She uses scientific and technical words. As you can see here, chronobiologists have also established that out of every 10 people, 8 follow a normal circadian cycle. 1 is a lark, 1 is an owl. So we have 10 people. If we have 10 people, then 1 is lark and the other is owl, and 8 are normal, right? These settings are genetically encoded and cannot be erased. So this is an argumentative writing that is arguing in a very humorous way, scholarly way on a very ordinary topic. And each time you read, please pay attention to claims. This is a claim. Almost in every paragraph, in an argument, the writer makes a claim and then brings support to back up the claim. And your job as a reader is look at the claim and look for the supports. And the supports you will see, she brings scholarly support. Once an owl, always an owl, she says. Look, the same statement. Why always an owl? Because whether you are owl or lark, it is biological. Your biology, your gene, your genetic decides whether you are owl or lark. And look how she does. Wells Webb, a psychologist now, she brings a reference to a psychologist from University of Florida. Look, how does she tell? This is what makes logical appeal, ethical appeal. When you see that Fadiman is referring to so many scientists, doctors, and engineers and scholars from university, then you feel that she has in-depth knowledge on her subject. And when you know that a writer has in-depth knowledge, then you believe the writer more, trust the writer more, and the writer gains ethical appeal. Then she brings Lynn Lamberg, expert on sleep. Look, her topic is sleep, and she is referring to an expert on sleep. Do you see? So let's comment on paragraph 4. So she argues that Fadiman argues that settings of time have been genetically encoded in human beings and cannot be erased. This argument. So she her claim. Let me underline. This is the claim she is making. Settings of time have been genetically encoded in human beings and cannot be erased. She brings now this is a claim, right? How does she prove this claim? She brings scientific evidence, right, to support her claim. She cites research done by psychologists where at University of Florida. She also cites Lynn Lamberg, an expert on sleep matters. Right? This paragraph makes strong logical appeal because the writer makes a claim and then supplies scientific evidence in support of that claim. Writer also makes ethical appeal. When somebody can make very good logic, then you believe them. So logical appeal leads to ethical appeal. If a writer creates logical appeal, then you will see that he also creates ethical appeal, because if somebody can speak logically, reasonably, you believe them. Okay, so she gains credibility by citing scientific evidence in paragraph 4. Let's move to paragraph 5. When I write after dark, observed Cyril Connolly. Now look, what kind of authority is bringing? So Cyril Connolly is, who is he? He is a literary critic, I guess, English literary critic and writer, born 1903, 1974. Your book may not have this information, I have brought it as part of understanding. So what did he say? The shades of evening scatter their purple through my prose. So here she is bringing literary resource to support her point, right? Unfortunately, in my case, there is never very much of the morning, and it is curious that although I do not despise people who go to bed earlier than I, almost everyone is impatient with me for not getting. Look, what is saying? I don't complain the larks. Then why do the larks complain against me? I'm not uncomfortable when the larks go to bed early. Why are they uncomfortable when I stay awake till late? Then she writes, commonly put his finger on the human owl's perennial problem, right? Then the natural world discovered the benefits of shift work. What is shift work? When the industrial era started, then you know people had to work at night. People had to work at night in multiple shifts. The morning shift, night shift. For example, I work in 2 shifts. I'm a full-time employee of the university, so I work at the university between 10 to 5, and before 10 I work in private colleges. Look, I'm working 2 shifts, right? Shift work. Okay, so let's move ahead and talk shift work. Then, okay, so here is a problem as you read. Actually, I have translated every sentence. I won't read the translation. But people who were born to follow similar rhythms are viewed by other 9/10 of the population as I guess there is a spelling error, I don't know. Tad threadbare in the moral fiber department. She says that the owls are seen to be immoral because they wake up at night, and have you seen those who are active in darkness, they are seen as evil people. And she will bring example. Let's see. So let's read the comment on paragraph 5. In paragraph 5, she argues that shift work has benefits because it is easier to share a given territory when not everyone is out. Look, she reads during night and not everyone is awake at night. So she is not disturbed. She has no disturbance. Look, she has no disturbance when she reads at night. She says that the bandicoot, the cecropia moth, the whippoorwill all sleep by day and work by night. So she is bringing example from the world of nature where insects work at night, and she says that what's wrong? Look, in nature there are lots of animals and creatures that work at night, and one complains about them, whereas people who were born to wake up during night, look, born to wake up during night. So Fadiman says that I'm born to wake up during night and rest during day are criticized as deviants from the norm. So people think that she's a deviant, abnormal woman, and she's responding to this accusation. So as you read, do you see, you can surmise the values and presuppositions this writer has. Paragraph 6, those who would bring great things to pass cautioned the 18th century theologian Matthew Henry. Now look, she brings an authority from religion, theology. Matthew Henry must rise early. He said, you must rise early, he said. Then in the medieval Benedict